Great to see you, Mia, and thank you to being here. For who doesn't know Mia, she's an expert lucid dreamer, and she also learned how to teach lucid dreaming. Thank you for being here. And
No, thanks for having me, Aurora. Thank you.
thank you. The first one
Great.
that I ask you is, where are you from, and what is your professional background?
Originally, I'm a very global baby. Anyone who's listening to my accent, you're probably wondering, is she from Australia? Is she from America? And so I was born in South Africa, raised in New Zealand, lived in New York, and now in Costa Rica. And I think my global travels have been very much like my journey with lucid dreaming and professions, because I trained as a lawyer, then I worked as a high school teacher, and then I moved into personal development, working in marketing and those sorts of things. Became a CEO of a company for a few years, raised some money, did a startup. So I had a very varied background. But the interesting thing for me was that lucid dreaming for the last 8 years has been the constant underneath it. It's why I love teaching people to lucid dream, because it doesn't matter if you are an athlete or an entrepreneur or an artist. I saw through my experiences that the practice of lucid dreaming is incredibly powerful and supportive, no matter what you're doing in your life. Mm-hmm. So even when I was, doing comedy in New York, using lucid dreaming to get creative ideas or to overcome some of my fears of speaking in public, right? Or to, being an entrepreneur and looking for, again, like creative solutions. So I've had a really mixed past, but now last year when we did our training together with Charlie Morley, that's how we met, really decided to start to share this skill, because I know, as you know, Aurora, lucid dreaming has such amazing possibilities for, psychological integration, for spiritual development, for adventure, for play, for creativity, and not enough people know about it. So that's how you and I are out here making sure people learn about it.
Yes, that's true. I love that you had so many experiences in your professional background, and that you think that it doesn't matter what you do, but lucid dreaming can help you grow, achieve many things. I like this point of view.
And you agree with me, right? I'm sure you've also seen that in your life too.
Yes, I have also changed many times job and career, so I can also see this, that it doesn't matter what you do, because it works anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now I'm curious, and the question is, how did you discover lucid dreaming?
It's a beautiful question. For me, about 7 years ago, I was living in New York, and one day I just started to have this very, very intense fear of death. Because I think we think about death, but not so much, right? Like most of us, you're going to die, but you don't spend so much time thinking about it. And I don't know why, like nothing crazy happened, but I woke up and I started to really feel like, wow, I am going to die one day. Everyone I know and love is going to die one day. And for me, I didn't have a religion or a belief system. I was more kind of atheist, agnostic. And so for me, I began to be very terrified. I couldn't sleep. I started to stay home. I got really anxious, depressed. Like it was like driving me crazy. And so I wanted to ask myself, how can I have the experience of dying without dying? I wanted to be able to work with this fear. And I was exploring that question when I started learning about, in Tibetan Buddhism, they use lucid dreaming as a preparation for death. And so I was like, wow, here's a culture, 2000s of years of practice and trainings that are using the dream space as a way to skillfully prepare for and understand the death experience. And so I was like, well, that sounds good. And so that's how I kind of got into it. And very quickly, within just a couple weeks of beginning lucid dreaming, I went really, 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 really deep. And I started the first 3 years, I trained very intensely. Like probably the first 18 months, it was all I did. I didn't have a job at the time. So I went fully committed lucid dreaming. Yeah. And to the point where like, I would do dream dates and wake back to beds probably every second night. I was like really into it and went deep into my psychological practice. and just had the most amazing experiences where for the first time in my life, I started to see that there you can have these sorts of conscious experiences that aren't so tethered to the physical body. And I think it started to make me feel more relaxed and have a personal experience of that. For psychedelics, if you're taking ayahuasca or psychedelic mushrooms or LSD, which I'd done a bunch of psychedelics. The problem for me was that after the experience, part of me was like, yeah, but it's because I took a drug. And if you take something, my brain would dismiss it, say, well, was that real, or was that just because I changed my brain? And as you know, with lucid dreaming, it's natural. It's something we do. And so the experiences I was having, amazing, psychedelic, wild, beautiful experiences, but I'm waking up going, oh, it's real. That was really real to me. So for me, it was really about healing and pushing the edges of my understanding of reality and consciousness and life and death. Just the small stuff,
So many things. Wow. I didn't expect that. Amazing. Amazing.
Why did you get into it? What's your origin story?
Oh, well, the interview is for you, but for me,
I want to know.
I know. For me, it was from one book. But at first, this book, the title of the book was Master of Lucid Dreams, and the key, like how it was written, it looked as if it was a romance, not something real. So I was really fascinated, but since I think 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't go deeper with the topic because, yes, I thought it was fantasy.
That's
But,
amazing. So for you, you thought it was that's incredible.
Oh, I love the story about death. I think is something that not many people are talking about lucid dreaming and death and how to, yes, face the fear of death. So I like the story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting. I just came back from a very in-depth 1-week training with Andrew Holacek, who's he's an incredible lucid dreaming, dream yoga teacher. And a lot of what he teaches the nocturnal meditations, which are, liminal dreaming, lucid dreaming, dream yoga, sleep yoga, and bardo yoga, which is really working with the death state. And it's beautiful because, so much of his work is in helping people to deal with conscious dying. And when you start to connect the dots and you see the relationship between waking state consciousness, dreaming state consciousness, and then, what happens when you die, it's really interesting because the state of our minds, right? The state of the quality of our minds, if we are peaceful, if we are anxious, if we are afraid, if we are angry, even if we manage to keep it together during the day, it comes out in our dreams, right? And then of course, it comes out when we die. And so there's a really interesting relationship and possibility, I think, with lucid dreaming, not just for having a really peaceful life, but to bring more peace and understanding around the process of death,
And I think that many people have this fear. The more you grow up, the more you feel like you are near to your day. So probably this can make feel better a lot of people.
And I think the reason why is, I know that you also use lucid dreaming and help people to use lucid dreaming for healing. And I think the reason that works is it's a personal experience. It's not an idea. It's not reading a book. You feel it. When you have a lucid dream where you integrate a shadow or you embrace a nightmare or you hug your inner child, you feel it so powerfully. And it's the same when you work with death. So I know for me that the moment that really helped me unlock my fear of death was I did a wake initiated lucid dream, right? A wild, where for those of you who aren't complete lucid dreaming geeks like us, a wild is where it's a practice you can do where you take your lucidity in from the waking state. So you're in bed, you do this after your deep sleep. So more like in the morning, and you practice, you have to learn how to really keep your focus. Meditation is great for this, but you're able to stay conscious through the transition into your dream. So as you're lying in bed, going through the hypnagogia into sleep paralysis, getting through sleep paralysis, and then watching the dream form. And I remember the first time this happened, as I went through the paralysis, all these audio hallucinations, and I'm like, keeping cool, keeping cool, keeping cool. And then the picture, you know what it's like, the pictures started to form, and then thicker, 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 until it was a dream. And then I felt like I got pulled out of my body, which was in bed, my physical body, and boop, into a dream body and into a fully formed 3-dimensional dream. And that's like a magic trick. Mm-hmm. Having the experience of your consciousness moving from physical waking state, boom, into dreaming state. For me, I went, maybe when we die, it's something similar. Maybe when we die, our bodies, they release, but the consciousness in the mind stream continues, and it can continue independent of the body. And it continues with the force of habit. It continues with all of its characteristics that we cultivated or didn't cultivate. Mm-hmm. So for me, that was a big moment where my fear of death started to soften. I was like, there could be something more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The next question, I think, I'm not sure. I think that maybe you already answered, but I will ask you. I don't have the words. So what do you think is the greatest benefit that you had thanks lucid dreaming?
Yeah, great question. For me, it would be 2 things. First, changing my perspective on waking state. Because, and if you haven't had a lucid dream yet, this is a really good reason to do it. When I had some lucid dreams, I started to see like, wow, in a dream, it's not hazy, it's not dream. In a dream, a table feels like a table. Mm-hmm. An apple tastes like an apple. The wall feels like a wall. And you realize like, wow, my mind can create really compelling realities. And I could look at the whole dream and know that even though it looks really real, it's constructed. And not only is it constructed, everything in this dream is me. Every dream figure is me. Every scenery is me. And when I woke up, from that realization, I now look at the waking state and I ask myself, well, is it so crazy that maybe this is very much the same? And we look at all the amazing quantum physics, like the incredible book, The Case Against Reality, where they're starting to unpack that maybe we do live in a simulator. The mathematical evidence is compelling that this so-called dense 3-dimensional reality is in fact a kind of co-created dream. Mm-hmm. And when you have that, you go, gosh, like if that is true, the potential for change, the potential for compassion, for understanding, you take a different perspective on life. So I think one, it gave me so much insight and perspective. And then the second thing is healing. A lot of psychological healing, right? Like the Carl Jung and his process of individuation, aspects of the psyche, the shadow, the inner child. And in my dreams, I must have done, I did 18 months focusing on the transformation of fear, so shadow work. Wow. And I must have done over like 60, 70 big lucid dreams, just working with different aspects of my shadow, right? Everything I could think of. And then just calling up the shadow. And every time you do that, for those of you who haven't tried this before, let's say you call up your money shadow. For me, I was like, why am I getting stuck with money? So I was like, money shadow, come to me. Wow. A personification of that will arise. And it's so symbolic and it's so perfect. I've heard some of your dreams, Aurora, and it's so beautiful, the perfection of the symbolism. It's for every person different. Mm-hmm. It will arise and then you can integrate it. And the healing I've experienced through that has been amazing. I found that every time I do a dream like that, where I work with a difficult aspect of myself or a nightmare, I wake up feeling so peaceful, so grounded, just so much understanding. And for me, I dealt with complex trauma and I had decades of suppressed memories. So for me, working with lucid dreaming while I was dealing with all of that was so helpful, because every time, for instance, I had to unlock a different memory from my childhood, often I would then be able to work with them in the dream. And so then instantly bringing in that kind of like healing and peace for myself. So insight and healing for sure. It's also really fun, but come on, insight and healing.
You did so much work. Really, really so
Yeah.
much work. 60 lucid dreams are a
On
lot
just the
of work.
shadow. On just the shadow. Yeah.
Wow.
Like when I say I was serious, I meant like I went I went so deep into the practice because just for context, like for me, I was very disintegrated. You know, I think I had so much that I had not healed and dealt with. And, you know, it can be really difficult sometimes to find help that works. And especially for me,
Yes. Mhm.
traditional therapy didn't work so much. Just talking about problems didn't really work so much. Why I love lucid dreaming is you are awake with your own unconscious mind, which
Mhm.
is so smart, remembers everything, knows everything. And when you do that work in the dream, it instantly integrates it. Like
Mhm.
when you have that experience of forgiveness, like meeting something scary and loving it and forgiving it and like bringing it in, that is the experience of healing. It's done and it changes something. So I've experienced so much change in my behavior, so much change in my patterns, my happiness, my depression. I had this amazing lucid dream once where I wasn't even trying. I was in a lucid dream, just walking around looking for something else. And I saw this woman and she looked amazing. I was like, who is that? She was like lying on the floor. She just had like black panties, a black bra on, and her whole body was covered in like big tattoos of red roses and black thorns, but from her toes to her head, fully
Oh.
covered. And you know, in a dream, there are different kinds of dream figures, and some are very important. And I was like, she's important. And she also had these kind of patches of like scars, and I don't know, she was so tragic and beautiful. And so I went over to her and I said, you know, like, what do you represent? And she looked at me and she said, I am the part of you that collapses into depression when you're feeling overwhelmed. And I was like, wow. And of course, like I hugged her, I integrated her. But when I woke up, I woke up in tears. I was so moved because one, I mean, I'd struggled with depression a lot on and off in my life. But so firstly, she articulated so perfectly a lot of the trigger for my depression was
Mhm.
like feeling so overwhelmed and then just like collapsing. But then secondly, when I was able to see her and integrate her, it changed something in me. And I noticed that from then on, my patterns, like I didn't have that experience anymore. It was almost like just seeing and understanding and accepting that part of me neutralized the pattern itself. That's why I really believe, like for people who are struggling with issues, it's not just about knowing what's happening, it's healing it too, right?
Yes. Wow. I love that you are liking the flow because you anticipated the next question about yes, sharing a lucid dream, and this one
Oh,
was
there we go.
yes, this one I think it was really powerful. It's like I can feel the emotion of being there and meet that part and feel that it's important to ask. And then the answer is something that it's like so true that you know that it's true. It's and it's deep. It's from your subconscious mind and
Absolutely. And I think
amazing.
that's what's so powerful about this practice is, you know, you and I, when we teach people to lucid dream, we are giving them a skill. And the skill is to be able to get lucid, to be in your own unconscious mind, to know how to use the space. But the cool thing is, then after that, you can choose your own adventure, right? So, you know, if you're like us, you can do this work and summon parts of yourself. If you want, you can practice skills, you can fly, you can have pleasure. And I think that's what's so amazing about this is that it's so personal, it's so unique. And for each of us, your unconscious mind knows you so well that I think the kind of work you can do in a lucid dream can be so effective. Because if you go to a therapist, you know, you have to ask, they ask you like, what's wrong? And you have to try figure it out. And your conscious mind is trying to figure out what's wrong. But often it's not in the conscious mind, it's in the body, it's in the unconscious. And it can be really hard. I know for me, I couldn't remember so much of what happened to me, no matter how much I tried. And it was only being working with different sort of modalities, you know, plant medicines and lucid dreaming that I was able to access these other parts of myself to do the healing. And like you said, like you can feel it's true because your unconscious mind is so smart and it knows, like, who knows you better than your own unconscious mind, right? So amazing.
Yes, I love your story. really. How you, yes, you practiced so much, and I can. It's like I can feel that yes, that this practice helped you to change many things in your life and how you feel and how you express yourself. So yes, it's a great experience. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
And I ask you this question. So, do you think that more people should know about lucid dreaming, and why?
Yeah, I think lucid dreaming offers a unique opportunity.
Mhm.
I think there are lots of people right now who are seeking these kinds of spiritual experiences or psychological healing. And, we're looking for different ways to do this. Lucid dreaming is a pathway that is already inside of you, right? It's something that you do naturally. As a child, as a teenager, you probably had lucid dreams. Every time I explain to people, a lucid dream is when you're in a dream and you know that you're dreaming. As you are dreaming, the person goes, "Oh, I've had one like that." So this is a completely natural thing. Plus, as you know, there's 40 years of amazing science behind this now. It's a scientifically verified brain state. The research on what it does in terms of increasing your creative lateral thinking skills, it actually makes the part of your brain that is associated with metacognition, your right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, it makes it physically bigger because you're using it more. And this is the part of you that's associated with higher thinking. This is your best self. This is the part of you that is self-reflective, aware, can like take a bigger view on your life. So I think we see this is a very real and very valuable and very natural way for us to work on ourselves and also to have these incredible psychedelic spiritual experiences. I always have to say to people, it's more psychedelic than psychedelics. There is no psychedelic I've ever done, and I've done a lot of psychedelics. There is no psychedelic I've ever done which has given me an experience as visually, sensorially strong as a lucid dream. Because in a lucid dream, everything, touch, taste, feeling, it feels real and your brain is experiencing it the same as if it's real. So I think for people, we don't know about it yet because it's still coming up new. Like meditation 15 years ago was still weird. In 15 years from now, lucid dreaming will be as normal as meditation. We'll all ask each other, do you have a lucid dreaming practice? Of course. We'll be teaching children. We're teaching children how to do lucid dreaming so they can work with their nightmares. They have a sense of power. Teenagers, right? And so people are going to grow up with more familiarity in doing these practices. That's my vision. That's what I say. Yes, everyone should know about it and everyone should try it.
I love that vision, and also I think that if so many people will practice lucid dreaming, there will be so many new things in the world, more healing, but not only for a single human like me or you, but also for the planet or the big problems, I think. So, yes. Wow, beautiful, beautiful
I
answer.
agree.
Well, great. This was the last question. So I'm really grateful about your interview because you are so enthusiastic about lucid dreaming, and yes, I didn't know you had so much experience. So love it. Thank you.
Of course. I really feel you and I are part of a small group of people who are going to help spread more and more about this and create new ways for people to learn. And I do feel like that there is, for anyone listening, even if you don't remember your dreams right now, it doesn't matter where you are. You could be really experienced or even have no dream recall. You can trust like this is something that all human beings can do. And so if you're really curious about it, if you want it, you can train it. It's a skill. Both Aurora and I learned it as a skill as adults, and you can too. So just want to encourage anyone who's listening to, dive a little deeper, go read up about it, go sniff around and get into it. Thank you, Aurora, so much for having me. It was such a great conversation.
Thank you.